Welcome, everybody, to the Bush and Me Show, the Last Dance recap, episodes 9 and 10. That means it's the last dance for us. We started trying to turn Torrey. Through this all, we've kind of turned Bush and Me a little bit. But it's been a great documentary, one of the best ever, possibly. We'll get your guys' thoughts in a second, but just a quick recap of 9 and 10. It started off with the 97-98 Eastern Conference Finals with the Pacers, which was a lot closer than I remember, to be honest.
Right.
It flashes back and forth, goes back to the 97 Finals versus the Jazz. We got the flu game, which turned out to be the food poisoning game. I didn't know about that. Right. We got Steve Kerr, great story about Steve Kerr with his father and him leading up to hitting that game-winning shot. We got the 98 Finals, fast forward, against the Jazz Part 2. We got Jordan's last game, Game 6. They give us a little behind-the-scene footage of what went on there. And then it shows us the end of a dynasty. Jerry Krause gets a little bit of credit. Torrey was looking for him. Not much, but they gave him a little.
I was looking for MJ to kind of give him a little bit, but he was like, you didn't hear it from him.
No. You have a better chance of hitting the lottery than MJ.
Right.
I thought I was petty. MJ holds grudges like no other.
MJ, hey, as soon as he win that game, he's like, check, got you, check. It's crazy, man. He's petty as hell.
But that's a good point. That's a good point, because look at Sports Illustrated did that story. He wouldn't talk to anybody from Sports Illustrated ever again.
To this day.
To this day.
Whole new leadership and everything.
Nope. What'd you guys think? 9 and 10. Bush, start with you.
I thought it was a great ending to a great documentary, and honestly, a great ending to a great dynasty. We got to see his greatness from episode 1. I was just a big fan of. I'm always a big fan of behind the scenes type stuff. So when you really get to see everything that went into it, even going back to the flu game, everything that went into that. There's nothing more I can say about him. You know, he's the ultimate competitor. He held so many great people back from getting that championship ring and getting that trophy. And just like Torrey said earlier, he's petty as hell. Barkley won an MVP. He's like, nah, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go win the whole thing. Same thing with Malone. You know, he's just a petty guy, but that's just what fuels his fire. And that was the same theme from episode 1 to episode 10. Don't get on Jordan's shit list, because he will try to knock you down. So I thought it was great, man. Honestly, I wish they would release 11 through 20.
I feel the same way. I feel like we learned a lot that we didn't know, and to witness his greatness was pretty special. And to recap to honestly games and that I remember watching like it was yesterday was pretty cool. Even though I was a youngster, I really enjoyed that because I remembered it. And just seeing how like sometimes all good things come to an end, and people let their egos get in the way. And I think that's something that people should probably learn from going forward. New England, Tom Brady. But, it was pretty cool to watch the way, everything. I thought they did a great job. I'm looking forward to what's next.
Torrey, let me ask you, do you really think he was that bad of a teammate? Like, I thought honestly going into it, because what Jordan said, like a lot of people are going to dislike me after they see this. I think a lot of players have their rough moments or, their expectations. I don't think it was as bad as I thought it was going to be. I just thought he was just going to belittle everybody.
Yeah, no, I definitely thought it was worse than I thought it was going to be. Like, he's a horrible teammate. Like, I don't think anyone lines up to want to play with MJ. But if you want to win, you line up to play with MJ. It may not be the best experience. You may not enjoy it unless you're gambling or golfing. But that culture within the locker room, he was ripping everyone. Like everyone. I watched, I can't remember which game it was, but someone missed the leg. Oh, they got the ball stolen from at the end of the game. The other team goes down, closes it out. My man, after the foul, they got an and one. Jordan got his hands on his hips, just staring at him like in disgust. I'm just like, dang, dude, like.
Yeah, he don't even hide it though. He don't even.
Right? Yeah, he does. It doesn't even hide it. I'm like, he does all the things that we try to tell our kids not to do because they're being terrible teammates.
Right. That's a good
I wouldn't
point.
say I wouldn't say I thought he was a terrible teammate. I thought he was being hard on them so that they could be the best them. But I will come a little bit closer to you, Torrey, and say that this really humanized him, I think. Because when I think of Jordan's like that fish, right? When you caught that fish when you were a teenager, it was 10 pounds. Then when you told somebody about it in college, it was 15. You tell your kids about it, it's 25 pounds. I mean, I thought Jordan didn't miss any game winners. I thought he took every shot. I mean, he missed 2 of them in those last 2 finals, game-winning shots. He passed the ball to Kerr and had trust in him. He passed the ball to Longley to tie it up in game 1 to force overtime. Like there's a lot more humanization there for me.
I'm glad you brought that up because, like you said, when we talk about 6 rings and winning, we would think Jordan did it alone. Like he didn't have any help. Like it just more so proves like he earned those 6 rings and no one else has done it. So in terms of like he carried his teams for sure. But I think it goes to say like he had a great surrounding cast around him. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think people try to use that as a knock at times. I know being on the LeBron side of greatness that's what people like to say. Like, oh, his team he had one of the top 50 great all-time players and Scottie Pippen but to me it just boils down to literally watching the games and seeing them and knowing that like, man, like basketball's still a team game.
Yep. Yeah, that's a really good point that you make. It's just that throughout this whole documentary, he was hard on those guys, but I think he elevated their game a little bit, or they elevated their game to them for him, because if they didn't want to face what was going to happen. And I honestly, like, look at a guy like Steve Kerr, John Paxson. Like, once he had that trust in him, once MJ trusted them, they were probably like, shit, I'm straight. I can play with anybody now. Like, who were like, what team am I going to go to? I can play my role. I can do what I'm supposed to do.
It gave them more confidence. I saw something yesterday. Stephen A. Smith did a thing. It was like 5 people that MJ needed along the way. I think those people needed MJ though along the way. He made them a little better.
I don't disagree.
All right, let's go with let's start with biggest surprise. The whole 10 episodes, it was all great. What was your biggest surprise throughout?
My biggest surprise was hearing that. One, I know they're talking about food poisoning, but my man Jordan talked about drinking beers, playing the piano, smoking cigars, all kinds of stuff. I'm like,
that was before game 1.
I'm like, that let me know. And I know back then it was a little bit different because I've heard stories of plenty of NFL guys used to smoke cigarettes before games and stuff like that. But you hear that stuff, and you're like,
2 beers.
You can't tell me.
Before
and he gambled and stuff. You can't tell me that he was never hungover playing in any of those games. It just doesn't make sense for a person who admits to consistently drinking to wind down and to relax and staying up and gambling. The math just doesn't work.
But what's funny to me that you say that is like, I guess maybe back then, the Bulls organization wasn't really high on nutrition, because after every finals, he was like, I was just so exhausted physically. I'm like, well, okay, before game 1 of the Utah game, like you said, Torrey, he had 2 beers, he stretched, and he had a cigar. And I'm like, before game 1, if it was me, when I played on Sunday, it's like Thursday, we had O-line dinner, I might have a few drinks. Friday, I might have 1 glass of wine. Saturday, if it ain't in this jug, this water jug, I'm straight. Give me leafy greens, fruits, vegetables. If not, if I had a beer on Saturday,
it's over.
Man, I'm mentally thinking I'm cramping, like just like that, But my biggest surprise, I got 2 of them. I'll keep it short. Would had to be Rodman. I didn't know the first departure. The second departure, that I was like, hold on. After a finals game, you just leave to go do WWF or whatever, WWE, whatever it is.
Do you remember that wrestling episode?
I do remember that. I didn't know he just left. I didn't know he just left.
Me,
I remember Rodman, and I remember him in the NWO. I remember all of that. But
in
now,
the finals.
In the finals. Come on.
Hulk Hogan was sitting there like, some things are worth missing practice for, brother.
yeah, right. I bet I would love to see that fine. And Scotty's back situation. I didn't know his back was jacked up like that. He could barely run up and down the floor. So that was another big game. Scotty was hurting, but he ended up toughing it out, and thank goodness they won.
Yeah, he looked real bad, man. He was tiptoeing around. You sitting there looking like, and all I can think of just Jordan just looking at like, you better not try this again.
Yeah,
But
hey, not this time. Not this time. You done had
For
the
the last
migraines.
time?
He's like,
I guess he got a headache. I mean,
he was like, the migraine didn't work for MJ. I got to go with the back thing. My biggest surprise, I'll stick with Pippen and go with the contract. I did not remember that at all, that he was playing for that little amount of money. And as the NBA started to grow and their success, he started bumping down the ladder on highest paid in the NBA. I didn't know about that. And the other thing I had was the Jordan being humanized throughout this whole documentary. Just the shots that he missed, passing to other people, because you always hear like, oh, Jordan, with LeBron, and I'll give you this story. With LeBron, now you hear like, oh, he passed the last shot, like Jordan would have taken that. But now you see him grow throughout the years and trusting his teammates. He was passing a lot more, and his emotion. You never really saw Jordan's emotion, and to hear that he wrote a poem. I mean, the guy's got a heart.
Right. I'll tell you what, Jordan taught me a life lesson from watching this, because I'm extremely hard on my siblings, on everyone in my family about just trying to do the right thing. And I stick with the Jordan line of, I'm not asking you to do anything that I don't do myself. Wow. But you can see how that has an effect and impacts other people in the way they may feel. So I'm literally watching him and I'm like, dang. I'll say that time, man, he's a bad team. I'm like, man, am I a bad family member or something here? Like seriously, it really had me thinking, like, when you watch someone else like that in a powerful position, someone that's a leader, you're like, dang, man, like the way you communicate does matter. And I thought there was so many different things. And watching me, like, man, he is human. Like, there's a reason why. It's because, like, failure, like, just doesn't, and disappointment, then when you know you're capable of it, he doesn't do that to people who he doesn't see it in them. Like, they just get pushed to the wayside. Like, when you believe in someone, their ability, you push to the top. Like, it was pretty cool to watch.
I just love this thing. It was full of content. It was full of knowledge. It taught me a lot. It was loaded with controversy. It was loaded with golfing, gambling. We had basketball, baseball, trips to Vegas, missing practice. I mean, if TMZ was around back then, it would have been crazy.
My God. Oh, man. They would have. Like, you're not getting away with half the stuff. And going back to the Rodman thing, he's crushing a beer, just crushes it, and then hops on the motorcycle. Like, I'm pretty sure drinking and driving is not a good look. And I'm pretty sure driving a motorcycle is not in your contract, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're not allowed to do some of those things, but they're like, whatever, man. You're going to get me on the court, I'm going to give you 100.
Yeah. It's just crazy watching Rodman. Like, I think, and you talk about Rodman the way he worked, and you talk about TMZ and all these other outlets. Like, if he existed nowadays, like we were making a big deal about the Giants going down to Miami and getting on a boat, chilling.
On a boat together.
And they were all back before meetings. It was their off day. And they're going to be talked about for the rest of the league history.
They pretty much blame their season on them.
Like, what's the definition of focus? Like, I feel like what we define in our era, in our locker room, of being locked in, like, you go and look at, like, that's one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. Like, what's our competitive definition of being locked in, being focused? If they can do that and win at a high level, we get criticized for doing much more in terms of being disciplined. Like, can you imagine if Drew Brees or someone, they're like, man, Drew Brees was down at Harris, like, getting it in.
Yeah, he was in the high roller section, just getting it in.
The high roller section the night before, right before. Like, come on now, like, it's just not happening.
Well, look at management too. They didn't hold him accountable there, because when he came back from Vegas, Jordan was like, don't ask too much of him. At least he's here. And then when he missed the practice after game 3, they helped sneak him out the building, so he didn't have to answer the question.
To be fair, some people in this world function better when everything around them is a zoo and is crazy. Yeah. So they catered to that because they knew, like, if they were too strict with him, he may not show up, period. So the fact that he came back was a win. And he goes out there and he's gonna get every rebound and he's gonna hustle harder than anyone else on the court.
Yeah.
All right. What do you guys?
At a different standard.
What do you guys wish you saw more of throughout this documentary? Bush, we'll start with you.
I can't ask for any more. What else could I ask for? I couldn't ask for any more. The only thing I would have, because the Last Dance, everybody kept talking. Was this going to be his last game ever? And obviously, it wasn't his last game ever. I would have loved to know why go to the Wizards, why choose the Wizards over any other team. It's not like they were, had a chance to really make the playoffs or a championship run back then. From what I remember, I would have loved to just have some kind of insight on that, but I don't really know what else there was for them to cover.
Yeah, I think it was tough. The things that I want to know more so going forward, like you're saying, like we all remember when he was in DC. That was a big deal. And I want to know how he went from, because they talked about the endorsements and the big things then. Like, I want to know how he ended up changing that to ownership, to like, what were his steps? Yeah. Now, that's more so a Jordan documentary than The Last Dance. Team. But just to see the way, he kind of went. And also the Scottie Pippen. We learned about his family early on. What ended up happening with his family members, their health issues, the challenges as to why he took that long, bad deal in the beginning, how that impacted him, And I also like to see, like, with people as parents, like, how are they in terms of interacting with their kids? Because when Michael Jordan, his kids talked a little bit, but I like to see him, like, show him, like, inside, like, how does he really, like, interact with his kids? I thought that would have been a lot to see, because again, you talk about like making them more human. Like, nothing makes the most fierce competitor seem more human, or even like a baby or a softie, than when they see their kids.
Straight up. I think one of the biggest surprises, though, you had to take this back to episode 1 or 2 when his mother made him go have that meeting with Nike. That's like, there would be no Jordan brand. Like, if his mom wasn't like, at least just go sit down and see what they got to say. Like, Jordan would have been a part of Adidas. I don't know about that.
I agree. One thing I wish I saw a little more of during this documentary, I said, was my fiance, because when I watched this thing, man, I was just locked in. Everything else was zoomed out.
Any question for
Sorry, baby.
Hold on now. Wait till this little commercial.
Right?
Did you say you wanted to see more of your fiance?
I said the one thing I wish I saw more of was, because I was tuned in. I was like, babe, you would care if I watched this tonight? You were watching it anyway.
Funny.
Right?
You're saying that. I'm sitting here having to hear from Chanel's probably the happiest person in our house. Like, well, no, Chanel have to get over Bush and me tomorrow.
Right. I'd be like,
no more recap, man. We have to get another one going.
She's like, yes.
Hey, since you're the stat man, I'm gonna ask you a question, stat man.
All right, go for
it. Name all the Hall of Famers that didn't get a ring. Like, I mean, you don't have to name all of them, but just tell the people how many people missed out on rings because of MJ.
Let's go with Barkley, Stockton, Malone. Drexler got one when he wasn't in there. Let's go. Okay.
You couldn't get one in that Jordan era, though.
Gary Payton.
Reggie Miller
was in there.
And that Indiana team was nice, too. Yeah.
Patrick Ewing. Yeah. I don't know. I would have liked to see more Dennis Rodman, though, because there was a big gap in there. He was at episode 2 was all about him, but then you didn't really come back around until 9 and 10. You would have liked to hear from him more in between, but I heard that he was 2 hours late to do that interview for the documentary. And when he got there, he requested food. They had to go get him food and stuff before he'd even sit down. He's like, how long is this thing? Nah, man, I'll give you an hour and a half.
That's hilarious. That's that man walked in like, what are we talking about? Like, why are
we? What's on the agenda today? No.
Right. Have you ever seen Rodman out in Florida? I've seen him like 3 times in Miami.
I don't think so.
Yeah, just like chilling. Like, each and every time I've seen him, one was outside of Aventura Mall, literally just chilling. And I saw him, actually, I take it back. It's twice I've seen him. Well, I've seen him 3 times, but only twice where I'm like face to face with him. out front Aperture Mall. I talked to him for a quick second, and then I just saw him during the Super Bowl down in Miami.
Yeah.
Out front the Lowe's Hotel, but just like chilling, like doing absolutely nothing. I'm just like, but he looks like when you look at him, like I wonder what's going through his mind right now.
Who knows? So the Bulls want to know too.
All right, what documentary would you guys want to see next? Bush, you guys want to think about it? I'll go first. I'll go first while you guys think about it. I want to see Boys Will Be Boys. You know, same era right there, along with the Bulls, the Dallas Cowboys. 90 to 95. Because you
won't be able to edit that. You won't be able to edit that. That's gonna be raw, just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you have America's Game on NFL Network. You have A Football Life, where you kind of got a little peek into that era.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that book, Boys Will Be Boys, they had everything from the locker room to Charles Haley stuff he was doing.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say, I'll let you have the LeBron one, Torrey, because that would be an unbelievable story. So I'm gonna say Kobe, because Kobe was kind of like, you know, the little brother to MJ, and just to see everything that was going on behind the scenes there. I mean, I think that would be pretty significant. His, you know, Kobe and Shaq's relationship, those finals that they ended up winning. I would love to see the dynamic of that. How was Kobe to his teammates? You know, get a little bit of inside scoop on that. But I mean, I would leave it at that. The Patriots one would be must-see TV as well. But
I'm gonna keep it. I want to know about the Bad Boy Pistons, like in this deep detail, because you're gonna hear the opposite side, and it's after this documentary, so it's gonna be a lot of hateful comeback comments.
Yeah.
But piggybacking off of you, I think more so Phil Jackson, because he left and immediately started winning in LA. Straight from the Bulls. Like, we can't act like there was like he didn't have a drop off. You know, like he went straight there and was still balling. So like to watch him, and it sucks that we can't hear, you know, Kobe's perspective, which probably would have been the best TV that we would ever have, because Jordan was a great interview, but Kobe was even different, you know, like just on an intellectual level. So I wish that was something, and that still can happen without him, but obviously not the same. But I'd like to see that, because Phil Jackson, I mean, the guy managed 2 different teams, 2 different personalities, and it was immediately. It happened immediately, so I think that'd be cool to watch.
For sure.
He set out for a shortened lockout season where the Spurs beat the Knicks, and then he immediately went to a 3-point.
Yeah, like, it's crazy.
That's sick.
Like, let me get back on my time. Okay, you got Kobe, let's roll. Let me go in. Like, it's because I was reading something the other day. Like, Shaq literally said he told Phil Jackson told him no more rap albums and cut down on the commercials, and he'll have everything that he wanted on the court. And I need to know beyond that basic conversation, like how do you even feel like just telling someone not to rap and to kind of buy in, like less commercials, like that's going to help them win, and you actually do it? Like, I like to, you know, kind of hear about that, because that happens often, because people are like, oh, you focusing on, you know, your image or your likeness and all these different things, and sometimes it impacts people on the field or on the court. So I'd like to see, you know, like what went into that conversation and what he saw that made him think that way, not just a generic, you know, you're busy and it's making me nervous from a coach's perspective. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, just the way he communicated to Shaq and the way he communicated to MJ, because like you were saying, before Phil Jackson got to Chicago, you know, the previous coaches was get MJ the ball, and what did the coach say? Everybody get the out the way. You know? So then Phil comes in and he's able to communicate to MJ like, hey, this needs to be more of a team game. You know, MJ was frustrated. He even said he was frustrated when Phil first got there, but he bought in. And look what happened. 6 championships later. Then he goes to the Lakers, and it's the same thing. So that's a good point you made. I think Phil Jackson just kind of getting more insight on that, and then hearing the other players' perception of the conversations that we're having, I think that'd be pretty cool.
We came into this thinking that Jordan was going to look pretty bad. Isaiah, I heard the producer thought Isaiah was going to look the worst, but we've seen everywhere on social media so far, Scottie Pippen seems to be the most kind of pissed off at how he was portrayed throughout this whole thing. How do you guys think Scotty looked?
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so Scotty was. Go ahead, Torrey.
I mean, he looked weak at times, but I didn't think it was. I thought it showed him like Robin. I didn't think it was bad. I actually saw a tweet that he said that I don't know if it's true or not. So I had to throw that out there because sometimes on social media land.
And we just lost Torrey. So, no, I mean, getting back into the Scotty thing, yeah, I mean, he definitely played the number 2 role at a high level. Like he didn't seem like he did much complaining. You could tell Rodman was a little bit frustrated with it at times, because when Scotty came back, Rodman was pushing the 2 to the number 3 guy. So, look, at the end of the day, Scotty won a lot of championships. Scotty made more money in the NBA than MJ did, Maybe he didn't have all the pressure. MJ took majority of that pressure, but Scotty was a big part of it. You don't win those 6 championships without Scotty, and I understand that, yeah, there were some things in there about it, but at the grand scheme of things, you had a hell of a career, hell of a ride.
That was great, Bush, but I need to hear what this tweet said. Torrey, what before you got cut off?
My bad. That was Chanel and her warning already. But no, it says something along the lines of, LeBron isn't better than him until LeBron gets 6 rings, which I think coming out of it, that tells me that he feels like y'all realize that I was the man too. Like that I feel like I'm one of the best players to play this game, and I should get that type of respect, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's
well, you brought up LeBron. We have to ask you, 10 episodes. Our goal was to get Jordan a little closer on your list to LeBron. Let's stick with just on the court. Can we at least get some on the court? What were your thoughts?
I mean, it's hard to compare that when I've already said from the beginning. I mean, Jordan's probably the most skilled basketball player ever, especially off. I mean, he played the game the way it's supposed to be played, probably greater than, people with this mentality. But I just think when you think of the greatest player, I think it has to be more than just the greatest scorer. You talk about the averages and what he averages. Well, if LeBron probably shot the ball 10 more times a game, he would probably be in the same ballpark too. And they still aren't off. I think it's just more to elevating the game than controlling it by simply scoring and playing great defense, which you can't knock that at all. I think being a complete player, like you're looking at his assists, and they're all when he's like jumping in the air. It's like 4 guys. Okay, I have to pass the ball. Like stuff.
Can't shoot this one.
Yeah, like oh, you over there by yourself? Here you go. Just watching, just the way play, and I just end up being more so a fan of playing that way. But I will never deny MJ's greatness. There will never be another basketball icon like MJ.
Cut the show.
That's all we need. That's all we need. One clip.
Because he's first. Sometimes, like I always say this to the old heads, just because someone did it first doesn't mean they're the best. Sometimes you have to be able to let it go. And I feel that way about LeBron. And it's hard. Like when you watch the special, for sure it brings back some memories and it reminds you of that. So old heads like yourself, I'm gonna have to continue to debate this with, but we're gonna have to continue to watch LeBron rise and see. Because I feel like even if LeBron is done this year, like let's say this is it, and he's pushing the envelope to play this year because he felt like this was it. He was gonna get another ring. He's sick.
They were talking about the NBA wasn't coming back. LeBron was like, no. Hold on. No. We got a good team. We're gonna let this one ride.
Yeah, man. But
I can agree with you. I can agree with
that conversation because before, I thought that conversation was Kobe before, and I feel like now, like, no disrespect to Kobe, okay, no level, but like it's just his name just isn't mentioned the same in that conversation, which tells me that I've been blessed to be able to witness greatness as a child and a superhero in Michael Jordan, but I've also been able to understand and watch, the kid from St. Vincent St. Mary's that were watching high school games on TV you know, and to watch the way he's grown and the way he's been able to create an impact and set the example for us as pro athletes has been pretty cool.
LeBron has had the pressure on him since he was in high school. Just like you said, when we were watching, you know, I was in college or wherever I was at. He's in high school and he's packing out, you know, NBA arenas for high school games, and then he gets to the NBA and his level of play and his level of leadership has always been here. He's always did everything right. Great family man, beautiful kids. You know, he has a huge impact in the community. So when I look at the grand scheme of things, I'm with you on this one. You know, he makes an impact not just on the basketball court, but you know, with his school. He helps out so many people. He has his hands in so many other different things in Hollywood.
Businesses.
You feel me? You know, shows, investments, restaurants. So when you look at it like this, yeah, LeBron on the court and off the court is number one. But when you step on that court, I mean, MJ was just a fierce competitor, man. Like he wasn't going to lose. Like he would die on the floor before he lost. You know what I'm saying? Like that's just him. So that's why I'm gonna leave this one at.
We're gonna have to edit that out, LeBron.
I know.
Yeah.
We got a little bit. I see a little straddle going on. I see just a little bit leaning from the beginning now.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm the same way. We were trying to turn you, but if you talk about the whole package and off the court, you know, LeBron does more obviously with his school and the community and everything than Jordan did. But Jordan's number one priority, man, was winning.
He said that too, and you have to respect it. And that's been a learned experience for me from it, because I always thought he flat out just didn't care.
Right.
Which there's still a little bit to that. Like, you know, I'm gonna worry about this winning and my money. But he said like that just wasn't his way of doing it. He had other ways of doing it, which you have to respect. Like everyone, just because you're in that position, everyone isn't built to lead in the front that way.
For sure.
Well said.
That's good points. Yeah, well, we
This
came
is
in
it.
here trying to get him to cross over, and we're kind of straddling the fence. So, I mean, you know, shit, you know, like we messed up along the way, but you know,
we're still one of the best documentaries possibly ever.
Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh, I can't wait to rewatch it. Shit. You know?
Well, we're gonna let you go, Torrey, before you get in more trouble. But thanks, Chanel, for letting us borrow you for 5 weeks. It's been real.
Big shout out to you.
Thanks for joining us. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.
Appreciate you.